Hey guys, it is Tyler here, back once again with another Assassin's Creed video. Another top, well, it's not top 5, it's top 9 I guess, because we're ranking, yes, the Assassin's Creed games in order. It's something we do all the time on Kill Connor Club, and James seems to update every 30 seconds. But I don't think I've ever done a fully ranked in order of my Assassin's Creed games, at least since Syndicate, maybe even since Unity came out. So here, I'll give you my list from my least favourite to favourite of the 9 major Assassin's Creed titles that came out on consoles. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. At number 9, which I don't think is any surprise to anyone that knows me, it is Assassin's Creed 3. It's by far my least favourite of the Assassin's Creed games. It doesn't mean that I think it's a bad game. It doesn't mean I hate the game. That's not what it means. Assassin's Creed is one of my top franchises. So any game in it, I enjoy on some level, but there's a lot I didn't like about Assassin's Creed 3. First and foremost is Connor Kenway, the main protagonist. I thought he was dull, I thought he was boring. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't care, because the fact is he wasn't. I couldn't relate to him. I thought he made decisions that didn't make sense, and I thought the story that was marketed to us was actually not the story we got when we played the full version. It was supposed to be, this is an assassin and he's doing assassin business, and he's not involved directly in this Patriots War and American Revolution, but he is exactly, and he's totally on the side of the Patriots, and he makes so many mistakes, and I just was so frustrated playing the main story. I was so frustrated watching this character, and I struggled to enjoy it, and the character I enjoyed the most was the main antagonist that you spend 6 hours at the start playing as before you get into the game. So there's just so much that frustrated me about the game. The setting isn't my favourite, the character is not my favourite, the story was my least favourite. There's so many reasons I struggle to play Assassin's Creed 3. It's got great things in it, from the naval gameplay, those homestead missions, just the fun collectibles and extras on the side. Don't get me wrong, Assassin's Creed 3 has its good points for sure, but there's a lot I dislike about it, which is why it's my least favourite Assassin's Creed game. At number 8, it's Assassin's Creed Rogue. Though people seem to praise Assassin's Creed Rogue just because it came out during a weird time and it somehow surprised people, they give it a lot more credit than I think it deserves. I think it is a very subpar game, especially for an Assassin's Creed title. Granted, it has some great moments in it. Shay's an interesting character, and it has great writing in terms of the way the story flows, some cool moments. But when it comes right down to it, you can't just say, oh, it was supposed to come out for the old consoles, so obviously it was going to look like this. There's no excuse for it being what it was, which was a shit copy of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. It wasn't as good. Everything was a reskin of it, but of a lesser quality. The story was about 11 minutes long, and it was a story I already knew that happened. I already knew that all the assassins got wiped out and eventually Haytham and the Templars reigned and then Connor came. Like, it wasn't a story that needed to be told. It wasn't a story I cared for. There was no tension because I knew how it was going to end before I even started playing it. And then I thought, well, why add this Shay character in unless he's going to link somehow to the other games like Unity that just came out? But it doesn't even do that. It tries to do a little bit of a link, but there's no real consequence to it. It's just there for the sake of it. In Unity, there's no consequence to Shay's character. In Assassin's Creed 3, he's not mentioned because he's a retcon character. This game has no relevance, has no real purpose, and was no surprise to me, and is subpar. There's no excuse, just because it was supposed to be around for the old consoles, for it to be what it was, which was not of a high quality or new Assassin's Creed title. At number 7, it is Assassin's Creed Unity. Yes, I think Assassin's Creed Unity is better than Rogue for a lot of reasons. Now, I'd like to say this for starters, because people are already raging at me who love Rogue and 3, which is the worst Assassin's Creed game I've ever played is Assassin's Creed Unity on day 1 release. That was the worst experience I've ever had playing Assassin's Creed. That should be noted. But Assassin's Creed Unity that you play right now today isn't the Assassin's Creed that it was on release. Right now, Unity is a lot better to play. It's not as buggy, it's not as glitchy, it's not as frustrating. I'm used to it. So it's a character that I do enjoy. I like Arno. I like some of the other side characters like Balek and even Elise. Though I thought there was a lot of issues with the gameplay and the co-op especially. I thought the story wasn't so strong. It had great moments in the first 50%. I actually enjoyed the first half of the story, but the second half of the story was of little consequence. The villains weren't very good, especially Germain, but I thought there were a lot of great moments with Arno and Elise and Balek, and I thought the map was great. I liked Paris. I thought it has one of the best free roam and side activities throughout Assassin's Creed titles in Unity, both the Paris stories and the murder mysteries. I thought the Dead Kings DLC was also a fun addition and quite interesting as well. Not the best of the DLCs, but I thought it was actually quite up there. And overall, I enjoyed the customization of the character and them trying to introduce certain RPG elements to it. Did it always work? No. But I did have fun with Unity, and I thought when it worked well. But the problem was, obviously, on release it didn't work great, and the co-op, which should have been so much better than it was, just didn't work and still has a lot of issues today. So it's hard to put that any higher on the list, even though if it was really the game it was meant to be, it could have been at the top of this list. At number 6, it is Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, this game over time has become more and more hated, and I get it to a certain level. It's hard to replay. I've never replayed Assassin's Creed Syndicate, but it's a game that worked. On release, I was able to play it. I enjoyed it. I think Jacob and Evie Fry are fun characters. Are they the best characters? Not even close. But they're enjoyable. They have their moments. They're a little frustrating, and though I have some issues with the story and the flow and the fact that these characters really had no obstacles to overcome, they just went into London, this whole Templar-controlled city, and pretty much took it over with ease, essentially. And I get it. I got that London had to be the next city. I think London's one of the best, most vibrant cities in any of the Assassin's Creed titles. I enjoyed the story to a certain extent. There was issues, again, here and there. It's quite a repetitive game. I thought the combat was quite abysmal, probably the worst combat in any of the Assassin's Creed titles, but it had fun characters, had a story with quite a few fun moments in it. The open world was a great time. I thought the city was vibrant and interesting. The DLC was terrible, and there's a lot of problems with replay value, as it does feel like a bit of a parody of Assassin's Creed. They try to make it more of a comedy, and they don't take themselves very seriously. And it's a big change, and maybe it's fun for some people, but for me, who's been a fan for a very, very long time, to me, they're taking the piss out of Assassin's Creed and not taking their franchise seriously that isn't in a state where you can make jokes. Well, I mean, we can make jokes because it's bad, but you can't make jokes. You need to take this shit seriously. Jesus Christ. At number 5, it is Assassin's Creed 1. Now, I played Assassin's Creed 1, that was the first game I played of the franchise, but it didn't win me over then. I had a good time. I thought it was fun. I wasn't that into Altair at the time, and I wasn't that into the whole franchise. I was like, oh, that was cool, whatever, and I moved on with my life. It wasn't until Assassin's Creed 2 came out that I fell in love with the franchise, and as Altair's character then developed with canon and future games, I enjoyed Assassin's Creed 1 even more, and I loved the character even more, that he's one of my top 3 characters in Assassin's Creed, because of his fleshed out story, the Secret Crusade novel. And I thought Assassin's Creed 1, though it was repetitive, has some of the best assassination missions in all of Assassin's Creed. It really was the core aspect of it, to have the modern day. It had Altair's story, it had the real assassin stealth gameplay in it. It gave me some freedom, and it really was the beginning of what blossomed into a beautiful franchise. And I think Assassin's Creed 1 deserves a lot more credit for that, especially nowadays. At number 4, it is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I thought, my god, this is a masterpiece of a pirate game, and though people get annoyed when someone says it's not a real Assassin's Creed game, look, it doesn't really push forward the Assassin's Creed storyline. Overall, it doesn't push forward the modern day that far. It just adds a few extra lore bits in that feel like they've been retconned and added in and shoehorned in just for the sake of the future of writing some other stuff into the story, which I get, and at some point it's necessary, but at its core, it is a phenomenal action-adventure title. The setting's so interesting and so fun. It takes some of the best elements of Assassin's Creed 3, which is the naval gameplay, expands on it, makes it a free, open world, and the first real, fully open world Assassin's Creed game. It has one of the best characters in the franchise of Edward Kenway. It has amazing side characters, those that are assassins, Templars, and the pirates especially. It brings in real and interesting history, brings it into that Assassin's Creed world, and it has some tear-jerking moments. It is a tragic story, and it really ties at a lot of emotional chords that we all have, and it all ties together so well. And I saw the development of Edward, and I loved it, and I would have loved to have seen more from Edward, but I loved the way it wrapped itself up. It linked to Assassin's Creed 3, and it was, as a standalone game, phenomenal. The only reason it isn't higher on that list is because it didn't do what some of the better Assassin's Creed games did, which is tie together and move the story forward, whereas it's kind of its own standalone Assassin's Creed title, and as its standalone, it's a masterpiece. It's phenomenal, and I absolutely cannot speak higher of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. At number 3, it is Assassin's Creed Revelations. Now, you all know how much I love the Ezio trilogy, and you're all going to get mad at me. Oh, fucking Ezio nut hugger. Absolutely, love Ezio. Happy to be a nut hugger of Ezio. That's fine with me. And Revelations is probably the, next to Assassin's Creed 4, the best written storyline and script of an Assassin's Creed title, though it has 2 side stories. One's the Ezio finding Altair's library keys and the Sophia stuff. That's the better portion of the game. That's some of the most phenomenal writing of the franchise, and the way it wraps up both Altair and Ezio so nicely, it's absolutely phenomenal. Some of the Assassin Templar stuff with Ahmet and just helping out Yusuf and the Assassins, it's not the strongest, but it was there and it was necessary for sure, and it was missing some of the real assassination and stealth elements of Assassin's Creed, but overall, it's a phenomenal game with my favourite character in the franchise, wrapped up his story more than... It's so hard to wrap up stories with really important characters the way they had with both 2 of them in one game, Altair and Ezio, and they managed to do it phenomenally in my opinion. It didn't exceed my expectations, but it was very happily sat right on, yep, I'm happy with that, I'm content with that, ready to move on and move forward with future characters, future games. And I thought the city, the world, the narrative was great, and I was very content with the way they wrapped up such a phenomenal character in Ezio and Altair as well. At number 2, it's Assassin's Creed 2. This is the game that brought me into the franchise. This is the game that made me fall in love with Assassin's Creed, with Ezio, with the modern day as well, expanding on that, but not hugely. But again, it was Ezio that was the highlight for me as a character. Having this awesome character in the setting. It was the setting that was the next thing to win me over. The Renaissance, having great cities like Florence and Venice, and everything like that just made me fall in love with the history of it, the characters of it, having Leonardo da Vinci in there, other Assassin Templar side characters. Overall, the story is phenomenal, the way it brings you in the characters and the setting. It's great narrative. The only thing that takes it away from what's number 1 is outside of the main story and a couple little side missions, it doesn't have the most vibrant open world and side activities. It does feel a bit like, okay, you've got these little things to do on the side, but it's mostly play through this story and that's about it, which on its own and what it built towards is absolutely phenomenal, but I felt like it got better with what came next. At number 1, it's Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Brotherhood to me, again, not the strongest story at all. That's the only real takeaway I have from Brotherhood. It's not the strongest of the Assassin's Creed storylines, but it's still fantastic. It's got the absolute best character in Ezio in his prime, in what I think is the best city of the Assassin's Creed in Rome, and I thought if they made it in today's, generation of games, it would be even more phenomenal. But for what it was at the time, it was the best city and one of the most standout cities of the time. It had by far the best side activities in open world. The side activities, the open world, the map itself made you feel more immersed, not only in the world, but also in the storyline. It added to the story. Everything you did on the side added to the storyline. And sure, you could play just the narrative, and it's pretty short, but if you do all the side activities and weave it in amongst that storyline, it's one of the longest, if not the longest, Assassin's Creed title there is. It has some great moments that add to the storyline for our characters, both modern day and obviously with Ezio. It has to be one of my favourite villains in Cesare, and of course having that storyline with Ezio in his prime, building an Assassin Brotherhood, adding that new gameplay feature to it. It was just fantastic. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, I've made separate videos on why I think it is the best Assassin's Creed title. It's my number 1 Assassin's Creed game. Ladies and gentlemen, you all know I can't speak more highly of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. So that is my ranked Assassin's Creed games. I know lots of the newer fans are like, fuck this guy, he's into the old games, why is he even a fan anymore? Because I can say whatever the fuck I want. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to like it if you did, be sure to dislike it if you didn't and you're a fuckhead, and I will see you all very soon with another video. See you later, guys.